Bad news for the millions of people who are currently paying off their student loans. The Trump administration is now looking into prevent states from protecting borrowers from student loan collection companies. According to Politico, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is preparing to issue a declaration that companies collecting federal student loans are now off limits for state lawmakers and regulators. They argue that only the federal government, not the states, has the authority to oversee federal student loan servicers, according to a draft of the document obtained by Politico. Now, that includes industry giants like Navient and Nelnet, one of which I have personal experience with. But wait a minute, what about states' rights? If the states want to set their rules on whether or not certain practices are allowed, shouldn't the states be able to do so? Well, look, you ask a conservative about states' rights, and they'll tell you, oh, states' rights are fantastic. We got states' rights. But then when you say, well, I want to use my states' rights to protect against my citizens against corporations that are possibly milking them for profit, well, then they'll say, oh, no, I didn't mean those states' rights. I meant states' rights to ban gay people from, or transgender people from bathrooms and make bakers, allow bakers to discriminate against gay people. We didn't mean against corporations. No, we love the corporations. So that's what they're at. Now, the attempt by the Education and Justice Departments to help the student loan industry pushes back against growing scrutiny from states. So that's why they're doing this. Understand, a lot of states have stepped up and said, wait a minute, your practices are predatory. And so, yeah, we're gonna protect our own people that are inside our state. I mean, we can't legislate for, Texas or Alabama, but we can at least protect people in Massachusetts or California. And again, of course, it is mostly blue states that are leading this effort. Now, this attempt by the Education and Justice Department to help these borrowers also comes after the student loan industry has for months lobbied the federal government for protection against from the states' efforts to crack down on them. Industry groups say that a patchwork of state rules governing student loan servicing will make it more difficult and costly for companies to operate across the country. And I don't really see a downside here. I don't believe these companies should exist in the first place. Why? Because I believe college should be free. It should be free to be able to attain an education if you want one. Now, unfortunately, we live in America, which means putting 42 million people in debt. Just get an education is normal and, of course, is required for getting a decent paying job. Now, right now, the department each year pays $1 billion to a handful of student loan companies that collect debt on behalf of the federal government. Now, they do that on the $1.4 trillion in debt that regular people have amassed through rising, of course, college tuition rates. So college is 1,000% more expensive than it was in the 60s, 70s. And so people have had to take out these loans, sometimes leaving them $100,000 in debt. It's insanity. So now, in response to this growing debt collection industry, more than a dozen states have either passed or considering laws that would have tightened regulations on these student loan companies. The new rules are needed to improve the quality of student loan servicing and curb predatory practices by some of those businesses. Now, as I said before, Betsy DeVos, not exactly a fan of protecting students. No, she actually enjoys the student loan industry. So what she did is that she filed this notice, and it also comes after another part of the Trump administration went to deregulating this industry. Now, the Justice Department made a filing earlier this year when it sided with the federal student loan servicer accused by Massachusetts of violating state consumer protection law. Now, Trump administration attorneys argued in a statement of interest that the state couldn't pursue legal claims against the servicer because they are preempted by federal law, that federal law now protecting student loan servicers. Again, states' rights, oh, no, those don't apply because you want to actually protect consumers. Well, we in the Trump administration want to protect corporations. So not only, and not only are they doing this, right? Some of the rules passed by the education department ordered the loan companies that work for the agency to avoid responding to freedom of information requests. So not only can states not protect their own residents, but no one is actually allowed to get information on what these companies may be doing wrong. Well, great. There's a problem with that. They're being paid by taxpayer money to go and basically shake down the same citizenry if you have a student loan. Now, of course, look, a lot of states are coming after these rules. In fact, half the country's attorneys general disagree with DeVos, and they argued that states do have a right to oversee companies operating within their borders. Now, the industry's lobbying efforts last year drew criticism from a group of 25 state attorneys general. Now, it's led by New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman. Now, they urged DeVos to reject an ongoing campaign by student loan servicers and debt collectors to secure immunity for themselves from state-level oversight and enforcement. Now, they need that state-level enforcement because the federal government has basically shown that they will not enforce protections and that they will always side with the debt collectors. Now, they said the education department cannot sweep away any state laws that apply to a student loan servicer and debt collector. Now, this letter was signed by GOP attorneys general as well as attorneys generals in liberal states. Now, this is Ken Paxton of Texas. He signed on to this. Herbert Slattery of Tennessee. And Cynthia Kaufman of Colorado. So you even have Republicans going, well, no, wait a minute. No, we're in our states. We do believe in states' rights. And we believe that we should be protecting the people in our states from these predatory practices. Showing at least that there are some Republicans out there that are not completely bought by the industry. Now, do you think that Betsy DeVos will listen? No, absolutely not. She works for the corporations, and I think her ultimate goal is to make college unaffordable. They want it to make it so the cost so high that nobody goes. Nobody gets educated. Now, her idea of education means bringing Jesus back into the classroom. Not actual Jesus, but free market Jesus. Because what is the biggest threat to fundamentalist religion? Which she is definitely a fundamentalist. Education. Education is the biggest threat to fundamentalist religion. Education, facts, knowing things. But again, people like DeVos don't want you to get educated. They don't want you to know things. They don't want, and they especially don't want you to fight back against their power. And again, part of this, I think, is making school unaffordable. Because you think about it, you see all these people taking out massive debts. You got these, of course, bill collectors, debt collectors that are out there doing everything that they can to go after that $1.4 trillion. It's going to make a lot of people think it's not worth the effort, especially when you have predatory practices. And so, again, that's my speculation, but I really do think that she wants to basically not have anybody go to college, unless you're, of course, incredibly wealthy. Now, again, the blue states, they're fighting against this, and even some red states, which is great to see. Now, the efforts are framed as a borrower's bill of rights. I think we need that. And what it would do is, of course, impose new requirements on loan servicers and establish a licensing system. And if you're not licensed, then you cannot operate in that state. Now, that's a start. Now, the CFPB, that is before it was taken over by Mick Mulvaney, also took aim at the industry. This was under Richard Cordray. Officials there have publicly suggested that the Education Department hasn't done enough to police its own contracted loan collectors. Now, this was the Bureau's top student loan official, a man by the name of Seth Frotman, testified in states in favor of new regulations on the industry. Again, I don't know how that's going to shake out now that Mick Mulvaney basically has requested no additional money for the budget for the CFPB. And look, when he was in Congress, tried to kill it several times. So anything that the CFPB has been working on to protect consumers, well, they're not going to be working on anymore. Now, however, last year, under Cordray, along with the attorney generals of Illinois, Washington, and Pennsylvania, all last year brought separate lawsuits against Navient over a range of big business practices. The company was accused of deceiving borrowers, misallocating payments, and steering borrowers into costly forbearances rather than income-based repayment programs. And so, look, again, there is a reason that these attorneys general and these states have tried to put up rules barring these companies from doing things because they have been found to have done these things that have based themselves on a predatory model. And again, that's the model for debt collection, where they threaten you, they do everything that they can to, again, increase their profit, because what they do is they buy debt from other places. They buy this debt, or they're contracted to collect this debt, and they will do everything they can in their power to be able to do so. That includes dishonest, predatory practices. There has to be some protection against that. Now, beyond that, again, you know my position, free college tuition. Now, that's not going to solve the debt problem, at least the people who have already amassed debt. But my solution to that is somewhat controversial, and I've done a video on it before, but we should really look at student loan forgiveness for everybody. I know, right? Incredibly controversial, super lib. But look, my reasoning is, again, it will help the economy. There's actually a study out there that is that shows that. And not only that, but if we don't do something about this $1.4 trillion bubble that we have, it is going to burst. And when that happens, I don't know what the impact on the overall economy is going to be, but I can tell you that it probably isn't going to be good. So we do have to protect people against these student loan borrowing companies, but overall, nothing short of free college for all and forgiving debts is going to solve this problem with student loans. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.